welcome to Channel 7 News. Today we'll be discussing the Civil War, starting with Kyle at the beginning of the war. Take it away, Kyle.
Thanks, Zach. Ever since Abraham Lincoln was elected President of the United States on March 4, 1860, the South feared he would outlaw slavery, even though Lincoln said he would do whatever it takes to keep the Union together. Just 3 years ago, on April 12, 1861, Confederate troops attacked Fort Sumter, sparking the Civil War. States had to choose to be part of the Union or with the Confederate States. North Carolina, Tennessee, Arkansas, and Virginia seceded while states north of Pennsylvania and New Jersey stayed. The North had the advantage in this war, though. They had more people to fight, more railroads to transport supplies and troops, and they had more money. General Winfield Scott came up with a two-part strategy for the North. First, destroy the South's economy with a naval blockade blocking their exports. Second, to gain control of the Mississippi River to divide the South. The South, however, had many farms to produce food for their soldiers. They also fought in their own territory. This means they know the land better and only have to defend themselves until the North got tired of fighting. Both the Union and Confederate armies had a shortage on clothing, food, and rifles. Most of the armies were also made up of volunteers who only know the basics of shooting, marching, and using bayonets. Civilians helped the army by raising money and running emergency hospitals to help the wounded. Now back to Zach.
Thanks, Kyle. Now, folks, if you plan on going on a trip this year, I would not go near Virginia because there might be some sights you don't want to see. These are several photos of current battles in the fields of Virginia. The war between the Union and Confederates is getting heated, and American casualties are through the roof. In the last two battles, there were over 30,000 American casualties, a record that I don't think will be broken for a while. Now, let me ask you this. If you're going into battle, don't you think you'd bring the all-important battle plans? Me too, but apparently Robert E. Lee had better things to do than worry about something so meager as battle plans.
What's that? Alright, I'm going to have to cut my segment short because we have breaking news from Jacob. Here's Jacob.
Thanks, Zach. I just got breaking news from the Union. They are attacking the port of New Orleans with 18 ships and 700 men. They just got past the Confederate defenses and are rushing down the Mississippi River to capture and take over Tennessee, Battle Rouge, Louisiana, and Natchez, Mississippi. The siege of Vicksburg is placed 200 feet up on a mountaintop. The commander of the Union forces attacking Vicksburg just decided to not attack them, but let them run out of food. Eventually, they did run out of food, and they surrendered, and the Union won Vicksburg.
Thanks, Jacob. The Gettysburg Battle was one of the last battles of the Civil War. It started July 1st, 1863. On that day, General Lee and his forces settled west on a small town called Gettysburg. Unaware, troops were encamped close to town. They ran into George G., starting the Battle of Gettysburg. On July 2nd, General Lee ordered an attack on the left side of the Union. He thought he could win if he captured Little Round Top from the Union forces. But Union forces fought hard to keep control of Little Round Top, but eventually had to retreat. He also planned an attack on the center of the Union line on Cemetery Ridge. This was called Pickett's Charge. The Union fought hard, leaving about 7,500 casualties. On April 2nd, the South surrenders and retreats. Now to Drake about the life in the war.
The life in the war was a very difficult issue for both sides. Many troops in the Confederacy and the Union are decreasing. Many men are ready to sign up, including African Americans and women. Women during the Civil War turned their attention to the world outside the home. Thousands of women in the North and South joined volunteer brigades and signed up to work as nurses. It was the first time in American history women played a big role in the war effort. For blacks, however, Frederick Douglass believed it would help African Americans gain rights to contribute in the war. African Americans around the country yelled and cheered in triumph as the Emancipation Proclamation was now in effect. The Emancipation Proclamation was issued by President Abraham Lincoln on January 1st, 1863. As the country entered the third year of the Civil War, it declared that all slaves will be forever free, but it applied only to states designated as being in rebellion, not to be slaveholding border states such as Delaware, Kentucky, Maryland, and Missouri, or to the areas of the Confederacy that had already come under the Union control. The careful planning of this document, with Lincoln releasing it just at the right moment, and the war, ensured that it had a great positive impact on the Union efforts and redefined the purpose of the war, although he believed that blacks were entitled to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness.